everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be creating a floral skull inspired tumbler, and we're going to do a little bit of a fall twist on this cup. So this is a 32-ounce plump purchased from the Steel Magnolia. I've already sanded it and prepped it and painted the cup white. And so now, because I'm doing a split cup, I'm going to separate this cup in half. So just taking some blue painter's tape, make sure to run it along your shirt or your table or your space, something to make it not so sticky. That way you don't have to worry about it pulling up your paint when you go to remove this tape later. As you see, I struggled a little bit. I clearly didn't use or remove enough stickiness off my tape. So what I'm going to be doing here is I am just splitting the cup in half. Again, I'm just eyeballing this. You could measure the bottom and then just take half of it, but it's pretty easy to kind of just guess where the middle is. So now that I have the tape separating it, I'm going to take just some plastic wrap to mask off the one side so that we can take this cup outside to spray paint. So this order came in as a custom order, and I just love the thought of skulls and florals together. I just feel like it's so beautiful, and to be able to add a fall twist to this, I just couldn't resist. So the colors that I'm going to be using today are actually from a color palette that I found on Pinterest, which I will put right here, that graphic. I get a lot of inspiration as far as colors from Pinterest, and I just love using that as my kind of outlet and opportunity to be able to pin different things that give me inspiration for future cup ideas. So now with our cup all taped off, we're going to take this outside and spray paint it. So again, using that kind of color palette, I've picked 3 spray paints that I've had on hand, and we're going to create an ombre on one half of this cup. So the first color that I'm going to be using is Gloss Grape. This is a Rust-Oleum brand spray paint that I've had for quite a while. So please make sure to, before I forget, make sure that you shake your paints for at least a minute. And the reason why you should shake them for a minute, because you want all of that paint to be moving around and mixed up well so that you don't get any clumping or any weird spray. So I've just done Gloss Grape, and now I'm going to do the middle section with this orange color. I believe it was called Siena. Again, I'll list everything in the description box in case you want to recreate this. So I'm doing short spurts, and you'll notice that, again, as I've said before, making sure my spray paint is not close to the cup. I'm holding it away from the cup because, again, I want to create a nice gradient. That way it's a little bit easier for me to see where I want my glitters to go. So for the final color here, we're going to be using, and it's called Amber Spice. So this is a Krylon spray paint. I had a little bit of a difficult time with this one. It didn't want to come out for a little bit, so I had to shake it. I had to remove and put a new nozzle on it. It just was giving me a hard time. But that is going to round out the top portion of this cup. So it's kind of like it reminds me of like a pumpkin spice color, if you will. And I just really feel like it went really well and matched the color as part of this color palette. So now that this is all spray painted, we get to bring it back inside, let it dry, and glitter. Okay, so now I am going to glitter this side of the cup. So my paint has already dried. It's dried for probably about an hour before everything was completely dry. I'm now taking just a little bit of leftover epoxy I had after putting some cups on my turners, and I'm going to apply a very thin layer of epoxy on my cup. I prefer to use the epoxy method for glitter application. I just feel that I get the best coverage with my glitter when I do epoxy method versus using Mod Podge, and it doesn't dry as quick as Mod Podge, so I have a little bit more work time. So this is amazing quick coat. So this is Alumilite's fast setting epoxy, so it does dry quicker than regular epoxy. However, I don't have to worry about it drying within minutes like I would with epoxy or with Mod Podge. Okay, so you've seen me do an ombre before, so I'm going to speed up this section just a little bit, but I'll walk through a bit of this. So I'm starting, my first color is going to be Purple Diamond, and this is from Lysha Creations. This is a square cut glitter that I'm going to use for the bottom. So again, I am tapping very gently on the bottom, getting full coverage around that bottom edge, and then gently tapping my glitter upward. I'm now going to take the middle section and use Autumn Sunset as well. This is as well from my Lysha Creations. And what I'm doing is I am covering that middle section completely right in the middle, and then I am angling my cup downward and just sprinkling lightly in the downward direction towards my purple diamond. So once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and go with my top color. So my top color is actually a yellow glitter. This is Firecracker from Peachy Olive Glitters, and because it has some kind of flecks of orange, I knew that having that amber spiced base would really help bring out the orange more than the yellow. So I'm just covering that top section with that color and going back in with Autumn Sunset, which is going to be kind of my blending colors between Purple Diamond and Firecracker. So to finish things off, I'm taking Teague from Peachy Olive Glitters. This is a very fine cut glitter to cover up the bottom of my cup, the purple section, and to make sure that I get full coverage of that purple section. And going back in with my SE Flurries to help me blend both Firecracker and Autumn Sunset together. So tap off all that extra glitter. You can go ahead and throw this in a dump cup, use it in a mold. That's typically what I do. And now I'm going to remove the tape off of my cup so that it doesn't get stuck there forever on my cup. So throw this on the turner, let it dry for 2 hours before I add my coats of epoxy. Okay, so before I add my first coats of epoxy, I did go ahead and spray that side of my cup, that glittered side, with 2x clear Rust-Oleum clear glass spray. I haven't yet put epoxy on it. I misspoke when I said that during the first clip, so I forgot that I totally have to do this other side. So I'm going to be using these 3 alcohol inks, which I'll place that graphic right here. These are the alcohol inks that I use to create this gradient on the flip side. So the idea here was just to create the same mirrored gradient on the other side of the cup, on the flip side of the glitter, that kind of mimicked or mirrored that glittered colored side. So I am starting with Purple Twilight. This is I believe this is a Tim Holtz glitter. Again, everything will be linked in the description box below. So I'm starting with that purple section and just kind of lightly going over this section. So you guys saw me do a lot of alcohol ink work in my one of my first videos on my channel. I did a woman empowerment cup, and I really spent a lot of time delving into and going over how I use alcohol inks. Alcohol inks, as I've said so many times before, I believe they're just so much fun to work with. I never have an issue with using alcohol ink. I just feel like it's such a fun and easy technique to really be able to nail and really be pleased with the outcome. So I'm just going to kind of speed through this next section. I'll do a couple talking points here, but you guys have kind of seen me work with alcohol inks before. Nothing too crazy. All I would say is definitely make sure that you have these makeup sponges. I feel like they work best when it comes to applying alcohol ink to cups. That, or certainly, you know, paintbrushes work as well. But as far as using this dab method, as I'll call it, I do feel like using the makeup sponges are the best way to go. So the one other thing that I will say about doing alcohol ink is you'll notice I did end up grabbing some 91% alcohol in order to create the kind of blending that I wanted in between the two colors. You'll notice I left a bit of a gap between where the two colors are meant to meet, and the reason why I did that is because I wanted to make sure I had full coverage in all the areas that I needed before going into blend, because I didn't want to pull any of those colors into the sections I didn't want them in. So I didn't want my yellow in my purple or my purple in my yellow and kind of muddying up the gradient I was going for. So alcohol ink, or alcohol, I should say, 91% alcohol is a great way to blend your colors together to kind of get the look that you're looking for. Now, the alcohol helps blend, but it does also lighten your colors too, so that is something important to keep in mind. But you can always go back and add more alcohol ink to your cup if you need your colors to be darker. So I'm just going to play with this a little bit, and that's just kind of the point of, you know, using alcohol inks, or like the fun, I should say, of using alcohol inks. They're just really kind of something, it just reminds me of like watercolor, or, you know, painting when you were a kid in art class. Like just being able to just play with the different colors and really just, you know, see what you come up with. So I did also spray the cup with, or mist it, I should say, with the 91% alcohol in my spray bottle, and that just helps create like different cells and just gives the alcohol inks a little bit of a different texture, which is something that I just think adds a little bit more dimension to the cup overall. So now it's time for epoxy. Okay, so now I'm going to quickly walk you through design space. So I've measured the half of my cup that I'm going to be applying decals to, and so I've just selected a square and made it a rectangle for the measurements that I measured. So the images that you see on the screen are floral images that I purchased from Etsy. I will link those in the description. And so I'm using the purple and orange flowers. I'm not going to use that orange rose. I end up not using that at all. So I'm just selecting the 3 flowers and welding them together. And the reason why I'm using that rectangle is so that I make sure that it's not too large for my cup and that it's going to look right on the cup. I have a habit of printing things too large and then having to come back. So now that I've welded the flowers together, so I select all 3, attach them, and then now I'm going to duplicate them in case I want to use a couple extra flowers, which I end up not using. Okay, so I meant to show the print then cut of Cricut Design Space, but I was having such a tough time with my Cricut for whatever reason today. But anyway, I did print these decals on printable vinyl, printable vinyl. Goodness gracious, I don't even know what I'm saying. And so I ended up hand cutting them out because again, my Cricut decided that tonight was the night that it didn't want to cooperate. So now I'm just trying to figure out where I want to place them. I had originally thought I wanted to place them on the alcohol ink side, and then I ended up changing my mind after seeing them against the glitter that I wanted to place them on the glitter. So I'm actually only going to use 2 of these flower clusters, we'll call them, and apply them to the cup. So this was kind of a design that kind of was ever changing in the sense of I had a general idea of how I wanted the cup to look, like what elements I wanted it to have, but I didn't necessarily know what exact images. So I spent a lot of time on Etsy just trying to decide what flowers were best going to match the decal that I was going to be using, how I wanted them to be placed on the cup. And so I had a lot of different ideas that I really had to take time to narrow down. So I'm just going to place 2 flower clusters on kind of both corners of that side. And in hindsight, I would have started with the watercolor side and done my water slide first. And as soon as I got these decals on, I realized that I should have done that and then gone in with these stickers or this printable vinyl. But anyway, I end up going and putting this back on the turner for another coat of epoxy after its original 2 to 3 coats of epoxy before going in with my water slide decal. So both of these images I actually printed using Google Docs this time. So I will do a future tutorial showing you how you can print a full sheet water slide. So I ended up using this glossy printable vinyl that I have had for a while and just haven't used. It's actually the same brand of the printable vinyl I normally get. It just happened to be the glossy and not the matte. So I got this specific image with the skull from Sassy Tumbler Graphics. And as you guys know, I do have a discount code for her shop in my description, so please feel free to check that out so you can get 40% off her files, excluding her $1 files. So I'm just going to put this skull decal on the front side with the glitter, and I just automatically am in love with this cup, and I wish it was mine, but I know it is for a customer. So now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to apply my water slide decal. So I printed this again using Google Docs as opposed to Cricut Design Space because I wanted to print a full sheet of water slide. So I'll definitely be doing that tutorial in the future to show you guys kind of how you can print a full sheet of water slide so that you're not wasting so much paper or having to use Cricut Design Space and only getting kind of that rectangle area that you can use. So I'm just going to trim this up and then submerge it into water, and I'll very quickly go through how I apply my water slide. Okay, so applying water slide has become my new favorite thing to do. It definitely was something that I was always afraid to do because I have definitely gone through my fair share of water slide troubles, but it really has become a really fun thing for me to do. So just submit your water slide, or submerge your water slide, not submit your water slide, submerge your water slide in your water. This is just lukewarm water. Again, I don't personally feel that water temperature matters. I haven't had to use one water temperature over the other. But while that's submerged, definitely make sure that you get your cup nice and wet. You want to make sure that the surface you're going to be applying your water slide to is wet. That way your water slide will stay on your cup and won't rip or tear or do anything you don't want want it to do. So then you're going to very carefully adhere just one edge of your water slide. So I know you can't really see it, but I actually pushed the water slide just over where my seam will be on my cup, where my two sides meet. And I then just hold that in place with my hand and very gently pull the backing off. And so as I'm pulling the backing off, I'm using my squeegee tool. And again, you can purchase this from the link in my description or head over to the Dollar Tree, and they have ones literally for $1 in the makeup section that work perfect. So as I am pulling kind of the backing away from the water slide and getting the water slide onto the cup, you'll notice that I'm dipping my brush in the water and then smoothing out any of the wrinkles that may be happening as I'm applying the water slide to the cup and removing the backing. So, you know, those wrinkles and crinkles are a little bit inevitable, but the silicone brush definitely helps to brush those out and make sure that you're getting all of the water out from under the water slide and that you're not getting any bubbles on under your water slide as well. So just kind of go back and forth. Take your time. Again, don't rush this process. I said this in my last video that I use water slide in. This really is a slow and steady process. Believe me, your water slide is not going to just dry magically. You have a lot of working time when it comes to water slide, so it's important that you take your time and don't rush it. I know sometimes we all get excited, right? Because it's finally going according to plan, and then as soon as we get excited and rush it, that's when, you know, errors and boo-boos tend to happen. So take your time and kind of just pull that backing off very carefully and use your squeegee to help you guide. So now I'm at the very edge and I'm just going to take a very sharp craft knife and just cut off that extra water slide I don't need and just set that aside. And I didn't cut it right on the seam. I cut it so that there's an overlap because I want to now take the time with my squeegee tool here to smooth out any bubbles and get my bottom and top edge. So the bottom of the water slide, I am just brushing downward so that it's flat on the bottom of the cup. And then with the top of the water slide, I am doing the same thing. So I'm pushing that water slide into the inside of the cup and waiting for that to dry just a little bit so that I can cut it off with my craft knife. So now I'm just going to trim up the edges. So I'm going again just a little bit over the overlap here, but closer to where those seams meet, and cutting off that extra water slide so that it's not on my glitter section. So now I'm going to do the same with the flip side, and I'm going to cut the edge of that off. So again, just taking my sharp craft knife, and it is important that you have a sharp craft knife, otherwise you're going to drag your water slide and it's just going to then be a crinkle hot mess, and it's so much harder when your water slide crinkles and starts to squish together to try and put that back on the cup when you don't have the backing to help support it. So as soon as that's done on those two edges, and now I'm going to focus on the top after I just very gently, very gently with this paper towel, just dry off any of that extra water. Now I'm just going to kind of brush through my water slide quickly and cut off the top edge of that water slide. So definitely be careful with the top edge. I always find the top edge to give me the most trouble, so I really like to make sure that I have a brand new blade in my craft knife and that I'm really being slow and delicate with the top, because again, I don't want to make my water slide come off my cup and kind of give me havoc, if you will, when I'm trying to get that little bit of edge off. So I'm going to take my cup and let it dry. The water slide I'll let dry for about an hour or so before I put it back on the turner for a coat of epoxy. So in this coat of epoxy, I do add a little bit of Diamond Magic from Lysha Creations. This is a glitter additive that you can add to your epoxy layer, and it just gives the cup a little extra sparkle, which I felt the alcohol ink side needed. So on my Cricut, I printed, or cut rather, 2 strips of vinyl. You guys have seen me do this before. So 11 inches in width by 0.15 inches in height to create that vinyl strip that I'll use to cover up the 2 seams. So I'm going to add this black glitter vinyl that I've had for quite a while to my cup on both sides, and then I will take my craft knife and cut off all of the extra vinyl on the top and bottom here before I get it back on my turner for final coats of epoxy. As you guys know, I always do 2 final coats of epoxy, and I always use Amazing Clear Cast with UV protection, as I find that epoxy gives me the best results for my final coats. So let's go ahead and take a look at the final result of today's tutorial. If you loved today's video, give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys again next week.